Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. Rzeczpospolita Daily have published information suggesting the United States are planning a new military strategy with Poland. According to the newspaper, there will be no Fort Trump, which is the name given to the proposed permanent US military base in Poland.
Rzeczpospolita Daily have reported that Washington is preparing a different strategy to strengthen the presence of US troops in Poland than the aforementioned Fort Trump. The question is not whether the presence of American troops will be extended. The question is how great this increase will be. The daily newspaper quotes its sources saying that Washington is weighing up the options of setting up squadrons at the Warsaw and Mirosławiec air bases. Both the Air Force and the Marine units are ones that can be used immediately. On the other hand, land forces must be first mobilized, transported, so the presence of aviation and navy units is good news for Poland. The exposed plans do not envisage the building of a big American base, one that was playfully dubbed Fort Trump by the Polish President Andrzej Duda. The military, especially Air Force and Navy, can be recalled immediately if the decision to do so is made. However, if there is a base and infrastructure built, you cannot just make it disappear like that. We want the United States to be interlinked with Poland so that they would see defending our country as in their own interests. That requires American investment in Poland. Close to 5,000 Allied soldiers are stationed throughout our country. 4,000 of those troops are American. Meanwhile, there are over 30,000 US soldiers in bases across Germany. If the US military presence grows in Poland, so will our position in terms of negotiating both with Russia and Germany. Germany is a strong opponent of US troops being stationed in Poland. They want those forces for themselves. According to Rzeczpospolita Daily, the details of the new plan will be unveiled in a couple of days in Warsaw by the deputy head of Pentagon, John Rood.
On Sunday, the leader of the Civic Platform Party, Grzegorz Schetyna, along with leaders of the Polish People's Party, the Modern Party, the Democratic Left Alliance and the Green Party, announced the creation of a European coalition. Large parts of the Polish opposition intend to unite in order to have a chance of defeating the ruling Law and Justice Party in the European Parliament election.
Leaders of Civic Platform, Modern, Democratic Left Alliance, Green and Polish People's Parties signed a declaration establishing the European coalition yesterday. The common platform is intended to help them succeed in the European Parliament elections. Will the campaign alliance of the parties led by Schetyna, Kosiniak-Kamysz, Czarzasty and Lubnauer be the desired antidote to the rule of the Law and Justice Party? They can certainly gain one thing, and that is the public perception of their alleged strength, as each of the parties are not strong individually. What can they lose though? Polish People's Party or the Democratic Left Alliance can lose their credibility, meaning their core demographics can leave them behind. According to a politologist, Dr. Bartłomiej Biskup, although the polls favor the Law and Justice Party, we should not underestimate the consolidation of the opposition. At present, the Law and Justice Party can no longer say that all other parties are trailing far behind them. With the consolidation of the opposition, the ruling party must not lose focus, as their opponents may quickly catch up with them. In this sense, this campaign will be more difficult for the Law and Justice Party. It appears that the European Parliament election will be a harsh test of the European coalition's endurance, as well as an overall mobilization of the Law and Justice voters before the battle for the national parliament in the fall.
Yesterday's parliamentary election in Moldova could result in a hung parliament between pro-Russian and pro-EU forces. The formation of new coalitions to reach a governing majority is unlikely. Representatives from the Europhile parties claim that voting fraud took place as people from neighbouring Transnistria were bussed in to vote multiple times in exchange for $20. If no other solution can be found, there will be snap elections. Yesterday, more than 5,000 conservative Estonians gathered in the capital Tallinn for the annual Independence Day March. The march is organised by the youth wing of the country's third largest party, EKRE, or the Conservative People's Party of Estonia. It took place exactly 1 week ahead of the parliamentary election. The National Conservative Party has a growing support and is expected to gain their largest ever share of the votes in the election.
The turnout of the Independence Day March indicates that EKRE have reason to look forward to the elections with confidence. The party is third in the polls behind the governing pro-Russian Centre Party and the liberal opposition Reform Party. The party is running a program of family and traditional values whilst also being against mass migration. EKRE is also mildly Eurosceptic while advocating a Swiss-style system of direct democracy. In the previous elections in 2015, the party won 8% of the votes, but has, according to the latest opinion polls, a chance of winning up to 20% of the vote this time around. The party's growth might become the key for the opposition to unseat the pro-Russian Centre Party from power. 1/4 of the country's population of 1.3 million consists of ethnic Russians, of which a vast majority was resettled in the country during the times of Soviet occupation following the Second World War. Their presence in the country has been a catalyst for Estonian nationalism among large parts of the ethnic Estonian population. The youth wing of EKRE has been organizing the increasingly popular Independence Day March since 2014. They were inspired by a similar annual march organized in Warsaw, Poland since 2010. According to the youth wing of EKRE, the march is meant to honor those who have sacrificed their lives for Estonian independence and to show that nationalism remains important to the Estonian youth.
Thank you very much for joining us here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. That's followed by business, and then the culture, history and the travel.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. And let's start with the forecast for tonight. So the temperatures will be from -1 degree in the area of Lublin, also in Warsaw, Olsztyn, and up to 3 degrees in the area of Wrocław, Poznań, Zielona Góra, and also in Szczecin. A bit of snow will appear in the eastern parts, in the southeastern Lublin, also in Rzeszów and Krakow. And now let's check the forecast for tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have a nice and warm day almost all over the country. The lowest temperature will be 6 degrees in Lublin, also 6 degrees in Katowice, and the maximum will be 12 degrees around Szczecin, also 11 in Zielona Góra, 10 in Bydgoszcz, 8 degrees both in Warsaw as well as in Łódź with some rain, but it will be sunny as well. Now let's check the upcoming days. On Wednesday, the maximum temperature will be 12 degrees in the northwest. We will see quite a bit of sun, but also some clouds. And in the southeast part of the country, we will see the most rain. On Thursday, 13 degrees will be the maximum. The western parts of the country, 11 degrees in central Poland and also in the southeast, and 9 degrees will be the minimum. And on Friday, 11 degrees the maximum, also in the west, 9 degrees in central Poland, and we will see quite a bit of rain with thunderstorms there as well. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition, and our guest tonight is Paweł Brzezicki of Polish Investment and Trade Agency. Sir, welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, what are you doing in Poland? Because you are an American.
Well, I was born in Poland. So I was born here in Warsaw, actually, and we moved to the United States when I was about 5 years old. Now, we always visited Poland for the summers to visit my family on holidays. But I'd always felt a pull to come back to Poland. Last summer, I actually had the opportunity to have an internship at the Ministry of Economic Development. It's actually 2 ministries now. But before that, the only time I'd been back in Poland prior was about 5 years before. Now, I'd always wanted to come back to Poland to actually live here on my own. I've never had this opportunity to have this kind of experience, you know, personally living here, feeling more Polish. I'd always lived in the United States and just visited family. Well, the situation was such that when I visited last summer, everything had changed so much. You know, Warsaw, Poland as a whole has grown so quickly, so fast. It's become an excellent place to work, an excellent place to live, an excellent place to be, especially if you have something to offer. So for me personally, I thought, I have this opportunity now. I work with the Polish Investment and Trade Agency. Specifically, I help Polish companies expand to the United States. That's my specialty there. Now, I had this opportunity to really help build Poland as a country, as well as live in this place at this time when it's really expanding, growing. It's peaking in a sense. I know I'm not the only young Polish person who thinks this way. I know that more and more young Polish people are deciding to move back to Poland, or young people who 5 or 10 years ago thought, would have left to Germany, to the UK, to the United States. They're deciding to stay here because the opportunities are tremendous.
Okay, so you are one of those entrepreneurial spirits of Polish origin who came here. Tell me about your professional background.
So I studied in the United States. Obviously, I finished my Master's of Economics at the North Carolina State University. When I was working at the Ministry of Economic Development, I actually heard about the Polish Investment and Trade Agency and what they offer. And I was really excited. Personally, for me, I've always been a huge Polish patriot. Of course, ask any of my friends back in the United States and they'll tell you how much I talk about Poland, how proud I am of my country. I'm also an American patriot in a sense. And I know as many Polish people want for there to be a closer U.S.-Polish relationship. Poles want it, Americans want it. And I saw an opportunity here at PAIH to help build a business relationship between the two countries. Militarily speaking, there's a very close relationship. Politically speaking, however, this business relationship has so much room to grow. And I thought that this is something where I can really help, where I can bring the two countries closer together.
The United States are a huge country, it's a continent. Basically, we are a small, tiny piece of Europe in a size of one American state, perhaps.
But that's an interesting point because Poland, size-wise, economically-wise, is the size of some of the larger U.S. states. And that's a really interesting approach that we should be taking towards building business relationships. The United States, I tell this to Polish companies who come to me, who seek to expand in the United States. I tell them it's not one market, it's 50 big markets. It's like Europe. You don't think about it the same way you think about Germany or Poland or France economically. You think about it the same way you think about the EU. But that's a really good way for us to build a business relationship is by building them with individual states, building trade relationships with individual states. And that's kind of a direction in which I hope to build U.S.-Polish business interests in my role for helping Polish companies, help them find specific regions of the United States they want to break into, where they might be more effective. Personally, growing up in the United States, I have a pretty good understanding about different parts of the country, where they might be doing better, where they might be doing worse, where a Polish company has more opportunities than others. And I see this amongst Polish companies is that they know about New York City. They know about Chicago. They know about LA and San Francisco.
I never heard of Tennessee.
They don't know about Nashville, Tennessee, which is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. They don't know about North Carolina. They don't know about Austin, Texas. They don't know about these places where they could be more competitive, where they could really break into much more effectively than they would in San Francisco. And that's another thing that I think Polish companies could learn a lot from.
Wow, this is an exciting moment we are living, and we welcome Paweł Brzezicki in Poland, and we wish you best for your efforts to bring up businesses on both sides of the Atlantic.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. Paweł Brzezicki of Polish Investment and Trade Agency was our guest tonight. And that was it for Poland Daily Business.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow Poland will be nice and warm, up to 12 degrees in the area of Szczecin, 11 degrees in Zielona Góra, 10 degrees also in Bydgoszcz, 8 degrees in central Poland with some rain as well. But tomorrow will be nice and sunny, 6 degrees will be the minimum. And now let's check what will happen in Europe tomorrow. So Europe will be nice, sunny and warm in most of the places. The minimum temperature will be 4 degrees in Moscow, also in Helsinki with some rain as well. It's nice and sunny, 17 degrees in Paris, also in London, 14 degrees in Dublin with full sun, 15 degrees in Brno and 20 in Madrid, as well as in Lisbon, 13 degrees will be seen in the Athens and 15 in Rome, Italy. This is all for tonight. I'm wishing you a beautiful evening. Thank you.
On today's episode of Poland Daily Culture, we are going to give you an insight into a foreign perspective living in Poland. We will be exploring their experiences and how they have absorbed certain aspects of the culture.
In today's episode, I will be talking to a lovely girl named Meha in a beautiful restaurant called Dąbrowski in Warsaw. Hello, Meha, and welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Thank you very much, Paula.
Thank you for coming. So my first question will be a question that you probably were already asked many times since you moved here. Why did you choose Poland to live? Why did you move from such a warm and different country to Poland?
Honestly, I thought I could have a better life in Poland. As a woman, I think this is the place where I found my freedom. As a woman, I've been able to do whatever came to my mind. And this is something I felt I was lacking back home in India. It's a beautiful place, India. I would encourage people to go to. But growing up there, I didn't feel like I had the same kind of life I could have expected. And I was very exposed to Western culture. I used to read a lot of English literature, watch a lot of films and books, and it created this idea that it would be a wonderful place for me to move to and discover myself. And I think over the last 10 years, this is what I feel I've done.
And was it your first time in Europe when you moved to Poland?
Yes, it was indeed
really?
my first time ever outside India, not just in Europe.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. And did you move to Warsaw?
So I moved to Warsaw much later. So I first was living in Wrocław for about 6 years. And then the last 3 years now I've spent living in Warsaw. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the cities are very, very different from each other. Wrocław is very small, but very charming, incredibly charming. It feels like home for me. I associate myself a lot with Wrocław. Mm-hmm. Warsaw, on the other hand, is much bigger. It's a cosmopolitan city. Mm-hmm. And because it's so much bigger, it has a lot more options for everything, a lot more choices, and culturally or politically, there's just a lot more to do and see and experience in Warsaw.
How is living in India different from living in Poland? Like, what are the most significant differences for you?
I think anybody who's been to India or knows a little bit about Indian culture would agree with me if I said that it's a very, very colorful place. Not in terms of...
That's how I imagine.
Yes. So color is very important in India. There's also a festival of color that is celebrated by many Indians every year. But that doesn't mean that I don't think Poland is not colorful. I think it is colorful, but
in a different way.
Poles should celebrate the color. So if you see, for example, the Gural culture in the Tatra Mountains, yes. I think they are incredibly colorful. Yeah. And you do see depictions of that in, music videos of Polish music bands and so on. But I think Poland should capitalize more on this color that they have. And
it's a good idea. I've actually never thought about it, but you're right.
Yes. Other than that, of course, the food is very different here. I actually do enjoy Polish food a lot, and I think it's great to have in winter because it's considerably heavy, and when it's biting cold outside, it feels lovely to have some heartwarming żurek, for example, or some pierogis. I enjoy Polish food. But I think at the same time, it also makes me appreciate Indian food a lot more because it's got a variety of flavors, lots of different spices to experience.
Do you miss Indian food sometimes?
I do, yes.
Living in Poland?
Yes,
yeah.
I'm actually quite disappointed with the Indian restaurants in Warsaw or in Poland in general. I think there's only one certain type of Indian food that that is prepared here by the restaurants in Poland, but there's a lot more to Indian food. It's very diverse, and every region in India has its own specific cuisine, and they can be very different as if they are from different countries.
Have you found your favorite Indian restaurant in Warsaw?
No, not yet. I'm still looking out, and meanwhile, I prefer to cook my own Indian food. Yes, I prefer, I think when I go to places like Paris or London, I'm always on the lookout for the most locally prepared food and experience the kind of cuisine. Like, for example, South Indian cuisine is very different from tandoori cuisine. And I like to try out the South Indian restaurants when I go to London or Paris.
And living in Poland, what do you miss the most from your Indian lifestyle?
Family,
Besides
of course.
the food.
Family. I miss my family, and I also realized that, for example, that my grandmother is growing old, and I do miss the fact that I don't get to see her very often. So sometimes I just make a quick impromptu trip back to India, like I did last month. I just went on a 4-day trip to see my grandmother. So this is what I miss the most. But my parents, they make it a point also to visit me in Poland. So they've been to Poland 3 times already. Yes, and they enjoy it, they love it, and they think it's even, Warsaw is even cleaner and more wonderful than Paris.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
Maybe it is cleaner, but it's hard to
Yes.
decide which one is more interesting.
I also feel it's more organized, Poland in general, with the public transportation
Yes, it is
systems.
true.
It makes it very convenient, and for them, they enjoy the differences that they see here.
Playing a little game, the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Poland?
Biało-czerwony, so which means the white and red. So whenever I think of Polska, it's biało-czerwony. It's kind of ingrained. Maybe it comes from a football game that I watched when the Euro Championships were going on. So yes.
And the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about music in Poland?
Music. In fact, I would probably request you to change the question and ask me more about Polish films, because I don't find, honestly, I do not find Polish music all that great. There is a specific, I think, rock band from Zakopane. I think they're called Zakopower. I think
yes, I know them.
They have very different type of music, but other than that, I do not find Polish music very impressive. But what impresses me a lot are Polish films, and I just truly enjoy watching them. I think I recently watched Cold War. And it's a well-made film, and there's
We're
Tomasz
very
Kot.
proud of it.
Yes, Tomasz Kot acting in it, and I remember a few years back I also watched Bogowie, and I think Polish films are very comparable to French films. Very good stories, very deep stories. They are not necessarily commercial, and they're very artistic, which is what I really, really like a lot.
Have you tried to listen to some older Polish music?
Some old, well, I hope you're not referring to Disco Polo.
No. I'm thinking more about Marek Grechuta or Perfect. No.
No, not really.
You should try that.
Okay, I will get some recommendations from you.
And the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about food, is it pierogi?
Żurek.
Żurek.
Yeah.
So
żurek.
it's your
I
favorite
love żurek,
dish.
yeah. Especially when it's served in a bread bowl. I love that. And I also like placki po węgiersku. So the potato pancakes with goulash. I think in winter it's just perfect. Yes, yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Yes, thank you, Paula.
It was very interesting.
Thank you for inviting me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we dive deep into the history of the Polish nobility. The Polish nobility makes a very interesting case, as they were more numerous and enjoy more political power than their European counterparts. They even managed to start a political system based on elective monarchy. Today, we will talk to our special guest, Jan Dąbrowski, a philosopher and a member of the Polish nobility. Between the end of the 14th century and the beginning of the 15th century, Poland and Lithuania forged what we known as the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And as we know, both sides of the Commonwealth have their own nobilities. I was wondering if you can tell me how they interacted. Was one above the other, or do they have interconflicts?
No, on the contrary, you know, that was the phenomenon, and that could be an example for European Union, for example, of nowadays,
Sure.
that when Polish noble families incorporated at the beginning of 15th century, they incorporated into their clans Lithuanian families, noble families.
Okay.
And at that time, the Lithuanian noble families got Christianized, because this is very important, you know. With the King Jagiełło, that was the time where Lithuania as a Grand Duchess was Christianized formally, but Szlachta, the noblemen coming from Lithuania, got titles recognized, and they were the titles on the same level as Polish, you know, by incorporation, you know.
Wow.
And that was a massive act on both sides, and in a peaceful manner.
Yeah.
And one has to know that before we fought, you know, on the borders, and of course.
And that is very amazing how they can integrate so well then.
Yes, but the act of unification, of creation of that Commonwealth, ended up in second half of 16th century in Lublin, and now there was in this year was an anniversary, you know, or last year it was an anniversary of that 450th anniversary of the Union of in Lublin. But that was a creation of the Commonwealth of two different states and two different nations. But within Grand Duchess of Lithuania, one has to understand, you had all the nation of Belarusians, in terminology of our day, of Mr. Lukashenko, and you had the whole state of Ukraine in the terminology of our times. All that, or I'm sorry, big parts. Sorry, the northern part of today's Ukraine was at that time in Grand Duchess of Lithuania. But what can be interesting for Americans or English is the fact that at the Polish court, when Jagiellonian and their ancestors became Polish kings, the language used at the court was Proto-White Russian language, not Russian, not Ukrainian, not Polish, because Jagiełło, the Polish king and formerly the Grand Duke of Lithuania, who was invited by Polish the noblemen, the highest level of noblemen who were in the circle of King Kazimierz the Wielki in Kraków, married his daughter Jadwiga. It's in German, it's Hedwige. I don't know the English name. And he, at the court in Krakow, it's good to know and can be interesting that the language, the spoken language of the court of Jagiellonian at that time and in the 16th century was today's White Russian, Proto-White Russian, the language which vanished, remained only between peasants, between farmers, you know, and was in the Soviet Union reconstituted, you know, in the beginning of 20th century. Didn't existed before, you know, as a officially recognized language. But that was the language of Jagiellonian dynasty. I mean, they were speaking between themselves, and they were using for communication matters, White Russian language, not Lithuanian, even though they were dukes and duchesses of Lithuanian origin, no doubt about it, you know. Right. And Grand Duchess of Lithuania, which united with the Polish crown, was down up to the north of today's Ukraine, you know. And it's just good to imagine, you know, that the spoken language and the document, the court documents were written in three languages, always in Latin, in Polish, and in Belarusian.
The Polish nobility differed from its counterparts in the rest of Europe by being politically independent. Absolutist rule by the king never evolved in Poland, in fact, which made it possible for a Polish nobleman to literally be the king of his castle. When the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was formed, there also was a very intricate political system that was formed between the countries, and I was wondering if you can go into the details about how it functions.
Yes. Well, that was unique. That was unique in the world,
Right.
Because what was created, and the 16th century was the golden era in the Polish history, because that was relatively calm time. There were, of course, some wars, but on the borders, you know, every war was important, of course, but that was not the country which was expanding by conquering territories of their neighbors. No, on the contrary, Polish noblemen's democracy functioned. Was a proposition. It was a proposal for others to join. So, for example, when a Reformation started in 16th century, after Luther, and we know that chapter of the world history, there were many religious refugees, and lots of them were coming to Poland, to settle in Poland, from Netherlands, from Scotland, Catholics from Scotland, there were Jews from Spain and other European countries chased out, because we have settlements, Jewish settlements for already noticed 800 years ago, 8 centuries ago, the first one, first communities, and all that happened always in a peaceful manner. We were not taking slaves and then polonizing them. No, they had an offer, you know. And within the Polish Commonwealth, Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, you had many nations with their own parliaments, you know. You had Jewish parliament functioning, which was at the lower level than the parliament of the crown and Grand Duchess of Lithuania, but they copied, or they had privileges to organize themselves in the same manner. So they had their own democratic body, you know, created in a democratic way. It was unique, you know. We were the country where taxes were very low, you know. Today, Poland would be like Bahamas or Channel Islands paradise, you know. Taxes in Poland were more than 40 times lower than in France of the time of Louis XIV, for example. Can you imagine? Not 4 times lower, but 40 times lower. There were nothing. That's why Poland didn't have big army. That's why we were defenseless in the 17th century, because we didn't have king who could possess and dispose big units and big army, you know, ready to fight any time. Because the central authority, what I have to explain, because in the West this is not known and not understandable, that in Poland, what was the Commonwealth? Commonwealth was the king, elected king, elected parliament, diet, called diet at that time, and Senate. Senate consisted of the representative of churches, of the big, the head of big churches, of the highest aristocracy. You know, only it was a small body, and all these three bodies, which was the king, Senate, and the Parliament, created the Commonwealth, the center of Polish of Polish state's power.
Right.
It was not like in the West that the king, like in the France, he could kill
Yeah, he can dictate everything,
anybody, or in Germany. No. In Poland, it was not possible because above all of them, there was law.
All right.
And people in Commonwealth of Poland were very well trained and educated in legal matters. They were long-lasting processes, court cases which lasted years and generations.
Right.
They loved it. They loved it. But there was a cult of law. Everyone knew that the law is above the king.
As we learned today, the Polish aristocracy played an important role in Polish history, and also they formed the backbone of Polish cultural life. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. Once again, we are on the royal route where we trip the light fantastic, checking out the most important sights along perhaps the most fabulous boulevard in the entire country of Poland. Yes, we'll be coming to you from the humidor room in the beautiful Raffles Europejski Hotel, newly refurbished and opened in 2017. This is one of the premier hotels not only in Poland, but in Europe itself. After leaving the Raffles Europejski, we'll head to the Royal Route, where we'll continue our walk, which started in the cathedral in the Old Town and continues today up to Nowy Świat. That is not just today, but for the next several days we'll be on the Royal Route, and we'll be showing you all the ins and outs and what's important to know. It's an exciting trip. Poland Daily Travel, the best travel reporting about Warsaw that you've ever seen. Stay tuned.
All right, we're leaving the Raffles Hotel now, the Raffles Europejski Hotel in beautiful downtown Warsaw, and we're going out for a walk on a beautiful sunny day on the Royal Route. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes of
Warsaw
on
the Royal Route.
on Poland Daily Travel.
There you go.
There you go. That's us. Okay, here we are, Arthur. We're on Krakowskie Przedmieście.
Yes, Przedmieście. Polish language sometimes is considered to be one of most difficult languages
Right.
on entire planet Earth. That's why we do learn languages, so to be able to communicate all over planet Earth. Classic.
Yeah, where would you rate Polish and as far as difficulty?
Very frequently it's
talking it.
put on the same shelf as Chinese Mandarin dialect. So that we are having more than 30 letters in our alphabet, many letter combinations, and sometimes our language is called to be the one with no vowels in it. That's why, to say it correctly, it's Krakowskie Przedmieście Street.
Ulica.
Ulica is a street, Przedmieście, Krakowskie Przedmieście is like Krakow's suburbs, to be precise when it comes to translation.
So we're in a suburb of Krakow, according to people from Krakow,
south.
or what?
It's straight south from Warsaw over then, and there was
the south is this way, right?
South is this way.
Okay.
And
Gdansk is that way.
And Gdańsk is right over there. And there was Krakow's gate right in here. That's why Krakow's suburbs.
Okay.
In here, once upon a time, outside Warsaw. Nowadays, right in the city center. We are right in the heart of our capital.
Fantastic. And I'll tell you something. If you want to know where you are, there's a sign right here. Okay, let's look at this sign. It says
let's do it.
600 meters, half a kilometer-ish, to the Stare Miasto. Stare Miasto means old town.
Stare Miasto means the old town,
right.
So the city itself in 14th, 15th centuries.
Okay, and then Kościół, SW means saint, święty, Anne. So the Church of St. Anna, right?
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
Church of Saint Anna. By the way, who was the Saint Anna? She was.
Yeah, who was St. Anna?
She was Jesus Christ's grandmother.
Is that right?
Yes.
Good Lord.
She was the mother of the mother, so she was mother of Maria. She also was having
Mother
this-
Maria's mother.
Exactly.
There you are. Okay. Well, that's good. For anybody who wanted to know about that, you now know another thing you might not have known before. Of course, most of you probably know the Bible a lot better than I do, to my own shame. Look, the Palace Presidensky, that's the presidential palace, which is right next to the hotel here, the Bristol. And up here we can see the university is 600 meters away, a theater, the Polski theater, Polish theater, 500 meters, and the University of Warsaw. This is just, actually, the first one is Nowy Świat metro, not the university. And the University of Warsaw, Uniwersytet Warszawski, 250 meters. So we know exactly where we are. And if we come around here, it says, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which we saw in a previous program, right? It's just over there. It's about 350 meters, so it's about 3 football fields to go there. I don't know what that is. Bulary Wisłany?
Boulevard, so Vistula Boulevards.
Ah,
That's a very,
Bulvary.
That's a very
Okay.
popular place for locals to hang out over there, as far as there is no drinking prohibition outside over there. So that local, especially young inhabitants of Warsaw, especially during the summer, are spending their time next to Vistula River. There is a lot of space over there, and according to our law, it's outside the city. It's outside the agglomeration, so that people can have over there a barbecue, a fire outside. Imagine
Okay.
you have a barbecue, you have a
Yeah.
sausage with cucumbers, and you are having a bottle of
You mean
vodka in your hand.
pickles.
Pickles, but we have all the people who have Polish forefathers know what the proper pickle is.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we just do them in a proper way. So you have a bottle of vodka in one hand, one pickle in the other hand, and this combination is really beautiful.
It is, okay. I'm going to take his word for it. Okay, we're on, what street are we on? Krakowski?
Przedmieście.
Stop looking at me like that. He's taking the mic. Krakowski, Przedmieście, and we're going south. And we might even go north again later. Probably we will. But we're going south. Let's keep walking and see what we see. Okay, so heading north, and I see something interesting up ahead of us here, which is on the left. Now, what exactly? There's a statue that we're going to come up to. Is that John Paul? Who is that?
Well, it's a very good friend of him. It's Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński.
Ah, Cardinal Wyszynski.
Very
Okay.
important person in our history. Thanks to him, we are having churches opened in communist era, and that was a very important and sacred place for Polish people, because this is where you could finally feel free in the church. Cardinal Wyszyński was the one who was supposed to go for conclave, Pope's elections, in 1978, and it was forbidden for him. Communist government said that he couldn't go for Pope's elections because they were afraid he would be elected as a Pope.
Right.
So they decided to send somebody young and unexperienced who wouldn't be elected as a Pope for sure, according to the tradition of electing quite an old guy as a Pope.
Right.
So they send Karol Wojtyła.
Right.
John Paul II. Eventually he was elected. And then Ronald Reagan said, remember? Ronald Reagan said
the Pope is the key
exactly
to breaking up the Soviet Union, right?
and this is the story that we are talking about at the moment.
Well, let's go look at the statue over here. Do you think does it look like him? You think? Did he really look like this?
Exactly, this is how he looked like.
Yeah.
So he's thinking, what can he do? What can Polish people do once again to get back our independence. We lost it once again. So many times in our history lost it. Such a difficult political, geographical, political location and situation we are having in here. So at least what he could do is to make our religion, our philosophy survive. Thanks to your philosophy, you can continue with your tradition. And this is what happened in here. And very frequently nowadays we are saying that our philosophy, our religion is the fundamentation, is nothing but a very strong
Foundation,
root.
the foundation, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
of our culture and current state.
Right. So he's an incredibly important figure in helping the Pope, John Paul II, to win Polish freedom eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah. By spiritual leadership. Spiritual leadership. As the Bible says, what is it? Man does not live by bread alone, right? But by every word from God or something like that. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Every day gives us new opportunities. And, well, yesterday is history.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift, and that's why it's called the present.
Poland Daily Travel, we are walking north on Krakowskie Przedmieście. And that is a statue of a great man, Cardinal who was the primate of Poland some years ago. Yeah.